Thank you to everybody for dialing in to what is my favorite event of January every year, our 2023 e-commerce resolutions webinar. To introduce myself, I'm Shayna Stevens, Head of Marketing at Loyalty Line. This is the fourth year in a row that we've worked with our amazing partners to compile a summary of the trends that we can expect to experience in the coming year. And I can honestly say that they get more and more interesting each time round. That said, I won't make you wait too long to hear them, but I do have a couple of housekeeping points. Firstly, we are recording this webinar, so if you find it interesting, you will be able to share it with your colleagues later on. Secondly, we'll be starting off with some quick-fire presentations from each of our speakers, but after that, we'll be going straight into our panel discussion. At that point, we'll be taking questions from the audience, so don't hesitate to drop any burning things you'd like to know into the chat or the Q&A box. So without further ado, we will jump straight into our presentations. I'm thrilled to announce that I'm joined today by experts from Shopify Plus, Gorgeous, Nosto, Omnisend, Gatsby, and of course, Loyalty Line. I don't think a lineup gets much better than that. Each of our speakers is going to quickly introduce themselves and then take you on a whistle-stop tour of their 2023 trend. So to kick us off, I'm going to hand straight over to Chris Burr, who's my colleague at Loyalty Line. Chris, take it away.
Thanks, Fee. Cool. Yeah, as Fee mentioned, I'm Chris from Loyalty Line. I'm a senior loyalty advisor. And just for those who might not know us, we help over 10,000 brands now worldwide really maximize customer lifetime value by developing long-lasting relationships with their customers. So my role is very much working closely with merchants pre-launch, understanding their challenges and helping to shape their loyalty strategy. So yeah, thanks very much for joining us today. And surprise, surprise, our 2023 trend is that brands are going to be using retention to help ride the storm of a potential economic downturn. And I suppose if we have a quick look at the landscape, we can see that things aren't particularly rosy right now. I know we want to start off the year on a positive note, but let's look at the facts. Inflation is at a 40-year high. We've got a cost of living crisis definitely over here in the UK. And I know you guys over the pond as well in the US are facing things too. And what we're really seeing is customers are they're being forced to tighten up their spending. And I guess alongside that, we're very much seeing that where e-commerce boomed over the last few years with COVID, we're not really being supported by that anymore. And as a result of that, there's so much more competition than ever because there's so many new Shopify stores, for example, over that period. So it's really hard to differentiate your offering and stand out from your competitors and harder than ever. But it's not all doom and gloom. If we look at, say, the luxury market, for instance, we know that people are maybe still saving up over time to make purchases that they're particularly passionate about. I just think the main difference now is that customers are just more picky than ever. So I think if you're focusing on retention through a loyalty program and other means as well, then you can obviously make sure that you're the one that they're saving up to spend with. I think as well, you're also going to reduce your acquisition costs, drive organic growth, and create those long-lasting relationships that are going to survive these times as well. So if we think about how do we actually do this, obviously we want to build customer lifetime value. That's the holy grail, as it were. But there's some important steps as part of that. And probably one of the most undervalued pieces is getting customers opted in to your loyalty program as early as possible. We did some research through Black Friday, and we saw that guest shoppers are 41% likely to join a loyalty program within a day of purchase, but it drops to about 9% if you wait just a week to ask. So there's really, time is of the essence with that. And I guess if you think about potentially, January sales or promos or anything that you're running now or have got coming up, make sure you're tying your loyalty messaging and strategy into that. Absolutely. And then we want to be thinking about how do we engage with customers in between visits as well to speed up those times to purchase. And are we re-engaging customers when they become at risk, for instance, and using your data around that to inform? Then think about your customer acquisition. So think about how much can you create through advocacy and getting your customers to do a lot of the work for you. So segment out your most engaged customers, your most loyal customers, and get them to help you acquire new ones more cost effectively. So for instance, getting them to leave you reviews, UGC, and offering loyalty points for referring your brand to your family and friends. Then our third point would be driving differentiation. So what we mean by this is shoppers are much, much more picky, like I mentioned earlier, but they're also looking for brands where they can align their own values too. So if you can build a bridge to them on that emotional level from the off, rather than it being just about sort of a new customer offer, for instance, then you're going to be starting that relationship off on the best possible footing. So what we see some brands do really well, for instance, is allowing customers to earn points via activities that do good, like recycling packaging. We've got one brand where they invite customers to bring their silver in store and get points for recycling that, or redeeming those points as well in the form of charitable rewards like planting trees or donating meals to dog shelters, for instance, that it doesn't all have to be about discounts and margin cutting. And then last but not least, integrate your technologies. So we know that marketing budgets are often probably one of the first things to be scrutinized during a recession. So make sure that you're getting as best possible ROI out of all of your technologies as possible. So are you segmenting your data to identify those highest value customers? Are you automating your email flows and SMS campaigns around loyalty information, for instance? Are you sort of feeding that information through to your help desk so that you can filter support tickets by your highest tier customers? Just make sure that your data is flowing seamlessly between all of your systems. And that's our prediction.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Chris. I think it's super relevant given the current economic climate, both here in the UK and across the pond. I love the examples of those sort of non-monetary rewards that you can be offering and how you differentiate your brand. Absolutely love it. Thank you. So up next, we have Brett Bernstein from Gatsby. Brett, over to you.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Fiona. And I wanted to echo and start off with what Chris said. His main points there were around LTV, and I loved how he put it, acquisition through advocacy, which is what our platform here at Gatsby is all about. In fact, we have a really cool integration with Loyalty Lion. So you can give loyalty points for social mentions. That's what we do, like bread and butter. We track Instagram, we track TikTok. We help take that data, integrate with tools you already use, like Loyalty Lion, Klaviyo, Attentive, Gorgeous, obviously Shopify as well for coupon code and revenue tracking. So we're a really robust community at scale program. And when I look at the trends for 2023, we actually wrote a whole blog post on this, and I took out 3 major areas. And it's personalization, chat experiences, and community. And the reason for these 3 categories is they all focus on driving down CAC, or acquisition costs, and increasing LTV. That's like the number one thing, as Chris talked about, the recession we are maybe in or maybe going into. It's all going to come down to increasing margin. And if you don't have that big ad budget, how do you squeeze out as much value as possible from the customers you already have access to, both from their own repeat purchases, but also from them sharing with their customers? So starting off very quickly here, we'll get into more details, I'm sure, during the panel, but you have a lot more data on your customers than maybe you're already aware of or leveraging. So for example, if you're using certain systems that like advocacy systems, right, like Gatsby or something else to help promote your brand through your community, if you know a customer is coming to your site from a social post or from an influencer or ambassador, they obviously trust that person who sent them there. So throw that person's handle up on a widget at the checkout page, in a dynamic banner on that site, on the landing page. Start to really build that like rapport with that customer and build that trust. So there's definitely, if you want to ask me after how to do these things, we can get our email or chat going. But yeah, definitely that DUI is supposed to be dynamically on that 3rd bullet point. But yeah, number 1 thing is personalization, make that customer feel special. Number 2 is, like Chris mentioned already, like email and SMS, but also hit them up in other places too, like DMs. Gatsby, my software, just released automated DM replies, so you can actually engage with the community through Instagram Messenger. And that's just another way to break through the noise and help to ensure that conversion or that repeat purchase. We have some really cool use cases coming out around this. I'll talk about in the next bullet here. But yeah, like I'm a consumer of online goods, 2-way SMS. I love interacting with support through SMS. It makes me feel closer to the brand. And then of course, on-site chat. And then the 3rd one is really where I focus 95% of my life. And I just got married this year, and I would still say that's where I focus a lot of my life, is in the community. So really, this is like the most important thing during good times, but also even more important during potential recessions. You have customers who have bought your product before. Many of them love it. Be sure to eke out as much value as you can from your community. And you do that by building like not just transactional relationships, but actually make them feel special I'm going to give one very quick example of an idea that's been coming up to us from customers. If you're going to run an ad to try to get new business to your store, everyone's doing it. With a tool like my software Gatsby, where you can auto respond, run an ad that says, hey, send us a DM with the word I love pizza and get 25% off your first order of pizza with us. So what this does is this allows you to not only get that person incentivized to purchase with their discount code, but it gets you connected to them through Instagram, through a DM. And when they send you a DM message, that unlocks your content for them more, like your organic reach goes up. Instagram, like bells go off on Instagram's backend that say, this person loves this brand. Let's show them more of this brand's content. So ways that you can really compound your ad strategy and build that community. So I know this is supposed to be a short intro. I want to stop there. We'll get into more details, I'm sure, in the panel.
You're on mute, Shauna.
Sorry, you would think I wouldn't make that mistake anymore. Community, absolutely one of my favorite topics. And I think it's so interesting to see some of the communities that people managed to build during the pandemic. And it's something, it was actually a plus that came out of that whole period, and we should absolutely keep it going. So fantastic to hear more about it. Thank you very much, Brett. Next, we have, my slides will change, Phil Wise from Shopify Plus. Phil, over to you.
That's great. Thanks, Fiona. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming on the webinar, and thanks for inviting me on. I'm Phil Wise. I lead the product marketing for retail at Shopify. For those of you who don't know Shopify, we provide an integrated platform so merchants, businesses can conduct commerce online in real life, which is the area I look after, and all the channels in between, such as social. So, and obviously that platform is supported by a full ecosystem of partners. So I'm actually responsible for Shopify's in real life retail offering. So if I was to simplify that, that's our POS software that works and operates on phones, tablets, and our proprietary hardware. Our POS hardware itself, so like card readers, and our Shopify payments, which allows merchants to take payments in the store. So that full integrated solution, giving an omni-channel experience between in real life, in store, and online. So in terms of someone that looks particularly after retail and is focused on retail, I'm going to double click on a key trend that we are seeing here in Shopify, and one that I know Loyalty Line highlighted in their trend report. And that is, firstly, the resurgence of the high street and how the physical and digital retail are no longer separate lanes of business. So, in previous years, we saw the rise in bricks and mortar store moving online. However, last year, and especially what we think we're going to see this year, is we see the continued reverse of that trend of online first brands looking to expand into physical stores. And I'll go into a bit more detail on that. But more importantly, why they're doing that and how brands are diversifying and differentiating through using these physical retail stores and in-store experiences to really cut through. So in terms of, that's the overall trend, but I think there's three main components of that I think are worthy of highlighting. So the first of those is, I think the purpose of retail is evolving. So there's an increasing demand for blended shopping channels. And this in turn is basically redefining the purpose of bricks and mortar. So instead of it being the ultimate destination, storefronts are now just one of several stops on a customer journey. Online and offline are effectively one continuous experience, or we believe they are, or we should strive towards that. So if I walk into a retail store to get something, as an example, I've probably done my homework on it. I normally have. I've probably started on my phone or a tablet. I've probably got brands I follow on social, and then I'll go into a store with purpose. In the same breath, this can happen the opposite way around. So best exemplified by like the trend of showrooming, where consumers visit a store to touch and feel products and then opt to purchase them online at a later date. So this ultimately helps build a personal connection with the brand and drives advocacy, something that you can't quite always get online. So I think when the offline and online experience is seamless, or as seamless as it possibly can be, there's a lot of value can be gained out of that. And I think also a second point to that is, with physical and digital no longer being separate lanes of business, I think a physical presence can actually supercharge an online one by doubling as an interactive billboard that customers trust and can interact with. So I think it was Retail Insider, maybe last year, I think it was, there's stats that show that brands get an average of 37% more web traffic in the quarter that they open a physical new store. So having a physical presence in the form of like a bricks and mortar store can actually help brands reach a lot more of their target audience outside of paid channels, especially as paid channels are becoming more expensive and more competitive. So I think it also provides more opportunity to interact and experience with the brand. But going back to that kind of halo effect that the physical retail has on online channels, I think what we're seeing is this is persuading more digitally native brands to expand offline. A good example of that is Gymshark. And for those of you in London, I know we had a chat earlier. So in Regent Street, in London, they've just opened at the end of last year. They're an e-commerce brand and they're now experimenting with more traditional retail. PD Paula is another a big jewelry merchant that operates on Shopify. They opened one store in Barcelona last year. They've now opened a whole number of stores and they're continuing that across Europe. So again, really leveraging the ability to interface with customers and also learn from customers as well. I think the second main component is that in-store experiences are really trending at the moment. So many brands are thinking, right, channels are blending. How can we make the most of a physical location? Or should we be looking at a physical location in terms of pop-ups? One of our, I think it's Inspiration & Co, one of our merchants, they opened 100 pop-ups across the USA in terms of end of last year to give them further reach, but also so that they could explore and in different markets. So I think that now that shopping can happen anytime, anywhere, I think the primary function of retail stores is no longer simply transactional. It's not about just purchasing. I know that and I think it's 35% of consumers actually enjoy the experience of shopping. Another 24% want to interact with products before buying. So as the competition's ramping up, the growing trend is to make retail even more experiential and appealing. It's something that you just can't replicate online, getting that magic or being able to bring your product alive. So we've seen a number of examples, and maybe we'll go into this later with a chat, but, empowering store staff to become experience hosts, appointment shopping, invite-only product and collection launches that are tied to loyalty programs, community networking events, product demonstrations, masterclasses. There's a whole number of areas where you can really bring your product alive. And I think that's a huge opportunity and also a huge trend that we're seeing. Now, I think it would be remiss of me not to talk about tech slightly, but I think the key thing to point out here is that experiential moments, or at least in my opinion, that win over customers, they're underpinned by tech. But the key component of anything that's actually in real life is actually the employees. So that's something that we've seen a trend towards in terms of, the customer data that you've collected online will help you target customer groups so you can invite them in store to these events. They'll allow you to strategically create experiences, an extension of your digital presence based on personas or customer profiles, etc. However, tech can only go so far. I think, especially when people post-pandemic are craving interaction, especially human interaction, I think a key component of that is that the tech is supporting the customer-facing employees, and they're no longer expected simply to take orders. They're product experts. They'll understand the landscape. They'll understand the customer personas. They're basically ambassadors for the brand that can bring the product and brand alive. So I think that's something that we shouldn't lose sight of. And lastly, following on from this, and it seems a strange thing to say, but happy employees mean happy customers. So brands that attract and retain exemplary teams tend to deliver exceptional customer experiences in store. So today's retail workers need more out of their roles if brands want to keep the customer service bar high. So an exceptional customer experience starts with the employee experience, and brands that attract and keep exemplary teams are the brands that provide flexibility, good pay, competitive benefits, but also ongoing development. And I think although that's not so much an e-commerce trend, it's definitely a huge trend that we're seeing in the commerce space, especially from a retail lens. That's what we're seeing.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. So it's very interesting because I'm not a good in-store shopper. I'm definitely better online, but I do have some strange hobbies, things like sailing, wing foiling, etc. And what I have found is when you go into a store and you talk to somebody that is selling a product that they're really passionate about, you get a very different level of passion back from the person working in store. And it's always made me think, if they were really well trained and really passionate about the brand that they were working for, then perhaps whether you're working in a niche sector like cycling or whatever, those areas where people have really high product knowledge, perhaps brand knowledge and brand passion could be just as powerful in store. So I think you raise a really interesting point there. Thank you. Moving on, our next expert, Jan Sorensen from Nosto. Jan, over to you.
Perfect. I'll go next. Also, thank you for the invitation. Super great to be here. GM for Nosto US. Nosto is a customer experience platform, so our mission is to make every impression relevant. Do that through search and product recommendations, A/B testing. So quite a wide feature set, if you will. And prior to that, it was in customer success, as well as fashion, e-com, also on the brand side as well. So I want to pick a trend around sustainability. So I do think that sustainability is obviously a macro trend that's affecting retail in many ways and areas. And I think you can see that, for example, with thrift stores and secondhand, which is trending massively. And I guess something that the generation cares about quite deeply, but it's then also impacting the user experience online. So I want to highlight a few things that our clients are doing with our tool, and I guess also with other tools as well. So one of them that we're seeing is that there's these sustainability geared content experiences. So nowadays the tech can obviously pick up if a user has a specific affinity towards organic products, sustainability products, or maybe other cause-based shopping. So that's something you do pick up, and you can obviously then create a dynamic funnel, if you will, amazing content experiences that are tailored to that specific group. We're also seeing, I think, the community pick this up. So for example, with UGC, so it's not just highlighting the shopping, but also the sustainability aspects and bringing in the client and customers as well. There's maybe more on the content side, on the merchandising and category page side, we're also seeing that is impacted by sustainability. So some of our clients, for example, are ranking sustainable products higher than perhaps non-sustainable products. They will also showcase if a product is more sustainable through badging. So I guess on the category page, you would see that on the product tiles specifically. Can also, again, be other cause-based information as well. And then something we see specifically around the facets and filters is also the ability to be able to filter by sustainability or other causes as well. So definitely taking category pages to the next level, but again, with that sustainability twist. And I think finally, at least from what we're seeing, I guess this trend is also not just taken at face value. So our clients will also A/B test those as well. So it's not just blindly following the herd, but they also want to know what the commercial impact is, whether it's positive, negative, and which segment is actually benefiting from that. Cool. Hand it back.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Jan. I think, sustainability is a trend that's come up a few years running in this, and it's certainly not going anywhere. Something we all really have to care about. Our customers certainly do. Thank you very much. Our penultimate speaker, Neil Forrest from Gorgeous. Neil, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for having me. Well, I've been introduced there. Neil Forrest from Gorgeous. I am Senior Strategic Partner Manager. And I'm also the founder of my own e-commerce brand called the Tartan Scarf Company. So hopefully today during the, I can see you laughing there, Phil. That's the fellow Scotsman. So hopefully if anything comes up in the discussion later, I can answer it from both a sort of tech perspective, but also from a brand owner perspective. For anyone that doesn't know what Gorgeous do, we are the #1 help desk for e-commerce brands. And we pull together all the support channels and technologies that brands use. So email, phone, live chat, SMS, social media, direct messages, comments, WhatsApp coming very soon. And then obviously the tech side of it. So your email providers, the likes of Loyalty Lion, reviews platforms, etc. And we do this to make brands basically more efficient with their support. And the net effect of all of that is better customer experience which just leads to big improvements in conversion and customer retention metrics, which I don't need to say because everyone else before me has just said is incredibly important at the moment. So looking at the trends that we see happening in 2023, I guess what I've chosen because we were sort of seeing it in Q4 and Q3 to an extent of 2022. And it's that brands are sort of diving into customer experience and customer service when they weren't before and in ways that we weren't before. And what I mean by that is customer experience is starting to overtake paid acquisition as a priority for many brands. Some of them because they want to, but some of them simply because it's a necessity, because they don't have the budget there anymore for paid acquisition. And so brands will focus on improving sales performance from owned channels. And we've got plenty of people on the call today, I think, that will be happy to sort of reiterate the importance of owned channels and the zero-party data that comes with that. And then we're going to see brands use this zero-party data to really elevate their level of customer experience, to differentiate themselves from their customers. So basically looking at what their customers are saying, to understand what's happening, or to understand trends and what's working well and what isn't, across everything from on-site experience to operations like shipping. And in terms of sort of one of the channels that we see popping up more often is chat. So chat, we think, is going to become the next meaningful owned marketing channel. And live chat in one form or another has been around for a long, long time. But we're seeing it become way more sophisticated. And it's now the preferred support channel for people under 50, because consumers simply want immediate responses. And also they want responses that go some way to recreating that sales opportunity and the in-person retail experience that we've just kind of heard about. So I think it's going to be a focus for a lot of brands because it's a known channel. And what happens during those conversations has a very direct impact on whether a customer purchases for the first time, in other words, converts, or comes back and purchases again. In other words, they become a retained customer and it helps with retention, right? So metrics like first response time we see are being really targeted now to sort of, and brands are prioritizing getting this number down. And to give you a bit of context or background on why that's important. So conversion rate for pre-sales chats that are answered in under 10 minutes is 28%. And that's data from like over the 100 million tickets that we get a year. And then the third point is be proactive. So we're seeing more and more brands taking chat a step further, because it's not just about being reactive when someone asks you a question, giving them an answer, being proactive and reaching out to shoppers to ask them the question they know, or ask the question and answer the question you know that they're about to ask. So things like reminding them of the key benefits. So like, did you know other products are 100% vegan, before they ask, are your products vegan? Simply asking if they need help, saying, do you need help finding the right color or the right shade, before they ask that question. And if they respond, then they can connect with a real human like they would in store. And we see these chat campaigns already converting at between like 20 and 30% when they're done really well. So if you want some inspiration on brands that do this well, I think we've got a lot of American people on here. So some American brands would be, or at least North America continent, Chicago Music Exchange, Glamnetic, and Tushy. And I can drop the links in the chat if anyone's interested to have a look at how they do it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Neil. I think I'm an avid user of chat. So it's interesting that you say under 50. I think under 50 also has a slight aversion to picking up the phone if we can talk to someone behind a keyboard.
Yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
100% my preferred way to solve any problem. But great insight there. Thank you so much. Last but not least, for our final trend, we are handing over to Greg Zakowicz from Omnisend. Greg, wrap things up for us.
All right, I'm done. There you go. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for your time. Thank you for hosting, to Loyalty Line and everyone else for great insights so far. So OmniSend, just super quick for you. You can just go to the website, omnisend.com. But email and SMS marketing automation platform we're built specifically for e-commerce merchants. We offer 24/7 live support for all our customers, and we're pretty awesome. So come check us out and see what you think. So my trend or prediction this year, which may or may not come true, but we start to see signs of it, is that companies will begin to finally, it's been 15 years of mass discounting, but kind of pull back a little bit. And if you are to pull back on discounts, you need to do things that everyone else who has already spoken today has kind of talked about. It's focusing on value, and whatever that value means to your brand and your company is really what you want to focus on. So my tips and tricks here are all based on that trend, but if that trend does not come true and we're just going to mass discount anyways, these are still things I would recommend you do. So to some degree, whatever works for you. So my first one is building consumer confidence by promoting those value adds in your messaging. And the value adds are going to be specific to your brand. You know what those are. Think about your competitive differentiators. But consumer confidence, whether we're discounting or not, still going to come in, right? So if I want a pair of shoes and I've got 3 retailers selling them around the same price, why am I choosing retailer A over retailer C, right? There's got to be a reason there. And a lot of times it comes down to consumer confidence. That could be, hey, I know their return policy is exceptional. So if these things don't fit, I can flip them back, whatever that might be. So within your messaging, whether it's email, on your website, in your SMS, push notifications, kind of even live chat, right? If you're communicating with someone, focus on those things that are going to build that consumer confidence. And I mentioned return policies is one of those. Could be shipping policies, whether it's free shipping, expedited shipping, flat rate shipping. Talk about customer service. We just heard about, live chat and how people want that more and more these days, right? So if you have 24/7 live chat or customer service, or we just know we have satisfaction guarantees, really promote those things. That could be in your promotional messages, automated messages, which I'll talk about here in a second. But think about the ones that matter to you the most. Think about the ones that are going to differentiate your brand from the other brands the most, and really hone on those. Customer testimonials and product star product ratings, right? These are things that we're starting to see a little more usage from brands in a smarter way now, but we're collecting these user-generated content. So whether it's on social media, in your emails, and especially automated emails, highlight these things, right? If I'm brand new to your brand and I sign up for an email, right, you may or may not have an idea what I might be shopping for, what took me to the website. Maybe I clicked on an ad or something around a specific sweater. But how about that welcome message or someone in there? We showcase customer favorite products, or use customer testimonials that are not only about products, but about your customer service, right? Hey, I love shopping with you guys. Fiona on the customer support was awesome to work with, right? But we want to highlight those things that all build in there. And obviously these feed into loyalty programs. So if you have those, promote them, promote the benefits to them, and kind of tie everything together here. So build that consumer confidence. Secondly, SMS. This is a way to build consumer confidence as well, but it's a growing channel. I'm sifting through 2020 data or 2022 data right now. I did 2020 already. Don't worry about it. So we have a year-end report, which will be coming out in the next couple of weeks, maybe sooner, ungated, but we put these reports out every year and every half a year. And what SMS grew almost 100% in 2021. Last year, it's up 64%, and sends orders are obviously up. This is a under 50 communication channel, but everyone texts. My mother, who's a baby boomer, gets marketing messages to her phone. It's unbelievable. They ding every time they go off. It's awesome. If you're around there, trust me. So here's the thing about SMS. It's near instantaneous. It is an opt-in channel. So it's like email. If you don't want it, you don't have to sign up for it. But we've had brands that I've talked to the founders, and they're like, well, we didn't think it was going to be a legit thing. But we figured we'd throw it on our sign up. We'll see what happens. 8 months, 70,000 subscribers, 100K plus in sales, and it wasn't cannibalizing their other efforts. So the more first party data you get with purchasing and the other channels, the better off. And really the other thing here is, it replaces email unsubscribes, which is really important. So, as people are picking up new communication channels, no matter what that is, they might realize that, email is not my jam anymore. It just doesn't fit for me for what I want, but they're signed up for SMS. So it still gives you that direct access to that individual person, but it can still tie it to the email. So you have an understanding, which can help, lower your retargeting costs, or at least make your retargeting for, say, lapsed purchasers or email unsubscribes a little bit smarter, knowing that you still they are still an SMS subscriber, not an email subscriber. Do we need to pay to send more ads to them on Facebook or Instagram or wherever it might be here? So think about just adding it to your program. And if people don't sign up, that's your indication it's not going to work. If people sign up, that's your indication they want to hear from you. And then finally, I'll make this one super short, but automation, we've been hearing this for 15 plus years. Use it. Last year, I updated this slide with the stats. More than 30% of all email orders came on automated messages. Those accounted for less than 2% of all email sends last year. Reason they're behavior-based, they're automatically relevant. So if we feed value adds into those messages, like cart abandonment messages, think about abandoning a cart and seeing those product star ratings or the customer service testimonials in there, return policies in those messages, how they can be a boon for you. So really think about using the automation. The three that are driving the majority of those 31% of sales, it's over 85%. Cart abandonment, welcome messages, and browse/product abandonment. So probably no surprise to anyone here. These are all stages in the customer journey. Welcome, excited for your brand. Browsing, they're on your website, checking them out. Cart, close to purchase. They abandon, probably at Price Shop or something else. But use these here. So these are my quick 3 takeaways and tips for you. Obviously, there's more detail on the Loyalty Lion blog post, so be sure to check that out. And then feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. But I'll kick it back to you for Q&A now.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I think, the discounting piece, another of my favorite topics. If we could just help stores move away from discounting with confidence, fantastic. But I think the SMS piece is so interesting. I've had 2 or 3 people from Loyalty Line in the past couple of days say that their New Year's resolution is actually to unsubscribe from as many emails as possible. So it's great to hear that there is another channel out there.
I don't want to hear that, though.
But there's an alternative. Fantastic. A huge thank you to all of our experts for talking us through the top trends of 2023. I'm thrilled that we now get a chance to pick your brains and go a little bit deeper on those trends. We won't hang around. We'll get stuck straight into the panel. Don't forget to ask any questions in the Q&A panel and we will address them at the end. So my first question, an icebreaker to warm you all up again. I'd love to know, what resolution did you make at the beginning of this year and have you broken it yet? Jan, let's come to you first.
Right, let me unmute myself. So personally, I think vibes with probably the message here more in person. So I think especially on the business side, I do want to meet as many people as I can this year. So I think last year was like this sort of maybe in person, but this year it's definitely 100% back to meeting face to face. So that's one of the New Year's resolutions. And then personally, also want to get certified my French language in B1 or B2. So that's kind of more of a private thing, but that's at least the goal right now. And I haven't broken it just yet. So see towards the end of the year.
Fantastic. Thanks, Greg. Over to you.
All right. I don't do as many resolutions as I do goals, kind of like Jan there. So I've got 2. One I failed last year because I had a couple of sports injuries and stuff. So one is I always try to find as much pleasure in my life as possible. And that could be for whatever you want. It could be being lazy in your PJs one day. It could be just going for a walk. It could be something bigger, but just try to soak in as much pleasure as possible. The other is around working out. So my goal last year and this year was 350 days of aerobic workout. I fell 9 days short last year, so I did 341. So far, I am every day this year, so I am right on track.
That's a strong start. Well done. Chris, how about you?
Yeah, similar. I'm not even going to attempt a aerobic exercise resolution. I don't think I've broken it, but similar to Jan, actually, I've got a language one. So I've got a trip to Japan coming up, kind of end of March, April time. So I've been learning a bit of Japanese on the old Duolingo. I think I'm at a sort of 80. Well, I'm not going to pretend I don't know. It's an 89-day streak, and I want to keep that going for the rest of the year. So that's my resolution.
Fantastic. I like it. Brett, how about you?
Yeah, I'll share 3 quick ones. So first is I want to start my day by writing my plans out with, before I get on my computer or check email. So I've been doing that. It could be creative, it could be tactical, whatever. I just want to get out of my head first thing in the morning. Second is drink tea before coffee. So I love coffee. I'm not trying to stop drinking coffee, but to have, as you can see here, I actually do have both with me. so coffee, and I have my herbal tea as well, just to get more water intake throughout the day. Because I mostly just want the hot beverage more than anything else. And then third is I like to rock climb, and I have some goals there on what I want to hit on my rock climbing goals. So
amazing, all very good. As a British person who doesn't like tea, I think I'll stick with the coffee, but I do appreciate it's hard to get that many hot drinks in. Neil, over to you.
Yeah, going for the third person with a language goal. I'm actually learning Dutch because I have been spending a lot of time in the Netherlands with work and working with some really nice agencies out there. So I thought, let's learn Dutch. And then the second one is I want to get back into making music and like music production and generally playing the drums more and the piano, which is really what my background was. I mean, I studied music at uni, so I want to spend more time, doing what I love, which is really music.
Amazing, you're all very inspiring. Phil, last but not least.
Yeah, I don't know if I can come close to any of them. Mine is simple. Rather than give stuff up, I like to take things up, and I'm just going to spend more time with friends and family. Post COVID, I've got into not leaving the house and sitting in at the weekend, and it's just making more of an effort, to go to the pub and see friends and all the rest of it. So yeah, that's my plan. All my healthy eating and all the rest of that went out the window day one. So yeah, forget that.
I'll come up to Newcastle and take you to the pub, Phil.
Sounds like a deal. Bring a scarf, yeah? I just looked at them. They look amazing.
Fiona, how about you?
Interestingly, I went for not resolutions this year, but words that I would like to describe myself as at the end of the year, or other people would describe me as. And calm was one of them, and I'm working really hard on it. And the train strikes and things we're having in the UK are testing my calm. But at the end of the year, people will describe me as calm, I'm sure. That's the goal. Brilliant. Thank you so much. It's nice to just get to know you all a little bit better. On to arguably the more important questions. Let's get stuck into our panel. So there's no denying that the recent economic downturn will have had an impact on a lot of the e-commerce stores listening today. What we'd love to know is, do you foresee brands changing tactics in order to still achieve growth through this period? And what do you think they could or should do differently? It's a big question, so perhaps you can just tell me the first thing that comes to mind. Chris, I'm going to come to you first here.
No pressure then. It's a really good question. I think one of the things that I've picked up from quite a lot of recent conversations, and it ties back to what we were talking about avoiding discounts as well, is if you imagine, I suppose, a graph of LTV on one axis and then number of orders and a number of customers on the other axis. So, higher LTV customers where you haven't got that many of them. You've probably got a lot more customers that have got lower LTV, more fickle, maybe your one-time shoppers. What I think a lot of merchants are seeing is those customers dropping off, and those are at the most risk, because of everything else that's going on in the world. So to combat that, people have been looking to kind of compensate by raising the average basket value and average order value, whether that is by increasing product prices or increasing their shipping costs, or adding a sort of minimum spend threshold to kind of qualify for maybe an introductory offer, those sorts of tactics, which I think are good potential short-term fixes. But I think there's a risk there that you can put off your both your new customers and your existing customers, because if your acquisition costs keep going up and your operational costs keep going up in line with that, then you're just going to have to keep doing the same thing. And it's the reverse of race to the bottom of discounting, almost race to the top where no one wants to buy it anymore, where you're going to have to keep, to achieve the same margins. So, ultimately then your competitors and marketplaces are going to potentially seem a bit more appealing. So perhaps there is a solution in hitting that area head on, and that sort of drop off of, your low LTV customers, the ones that are dropping off after their first purchase. So maybe even if it's as simple as look in the data, understand how many shoppers you're converting from your first purchase into a second purchase. And then maybe thinking about even simple things like how easy are you making it for customers to return? Is that around the account sign-up experience or the overall website experience when someone comes back? Is it different when they come back? We know that if you can, get them opted into your loyalty program, I'm going to, bang that drum a little bit. We know that even just by becoming a member, they're 47% more likely to make another purchase as well. So I think, that real early stage of the life cycle is often really underlooked and undervalued.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Has anybody got anything they want to add or chip in there, or perhaps a different point to add?
Let me add one small quick thing on this question. I think of an analogy with SEO. Like, everybody knows SEO is extremely valuable long term, but it's not like a very exciting strategy to build, as it takes a long time and there's very little benefits for the short and the immediate term. So I think during economic boom times, we tend to ignore SEO more because it's just cheaper and easier to get that ad spend out and get that 3x or 4x ROAS. Well, I think of community and SEO in the same bucket, where it just takes time to get that flywheel going, but you're really happy when you've invested in SEO 6 months ago or a community 6 months ago, because now you're getting acquisition at a lower cost. So if you are tightening your belt on advertising spend or other sort of marketing spend, this is the best time ever. Like, yesterday is the best time ever to start building community and building SEO and other tactics that are not as directly correlated to an immediate sale, that have longer term benefits.
Right, I think we might be kindred spirits. I've compared loyalty and SEO so many times on exactly that basis that you won't see the results overnight, but it is absolutely the most valuable long-term investment. Anybody else have anything they want to share on that first question?
Yeah, a couple of things from me. I think customer experience is absolutely critical. Like seamless, frictionless customer experience through all channels. Mm-hmm. And that goes for omni-channel, offline, online. But looking at it from a retail lens as well, 80% of retail still happens in person. Sorry to bang the in-person drum. And as people come back to the high street, as I said in some of my points earlier, there's a real opportunity here to stand out, or to at least experiment in that place. We've had some of our, with the privacy laws, the high cost of acquisition through paid channels, we had some of our merchants actually come to us and say, without opening pop-ups, without opening in real life, they don't think they would have survived in certain, to the extent that they had through the last year. So I think there's definitely an opportunity there to experiment, but also to really elevate your brand again through that in real life. But ensuring it's frictionless, I think, is absolutely critical to get that customer experience just right.
Yeah, I think the pop-up piece is really interesting, isn't it? It's sort of that middle ground where you can test things and you can start to connect with customers on the ground without going the full hog. So definitely opportunity there.
Try before you buy.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Fantastic. We'll move on to our second question. So here at Loyalty Lion, we believe that community building is going to continue to be a really key lever for retention in 2023. So I'd love to hear what's one tactic you would share with brands to effectively create a brand community, or perhaps elevate the one that you already have. Brett, I'm going to start with you here because you've already highlighted the importance of that community.
Yeah, for sure. Well, given the members of this call today, I'll highlight a couple ideas that are very tactical. The first one is Loyalty Lion's, entire product and what you can do with loyalty. And some of the stats that Chris mentioned are pretty compelling. But when you mix together Gorgeous, Loyalty Lion, and Gatsby together, the three of us, we have a direct integration all three ways. You could really start to compound the efforts. So, for example, get loyalty points when you do an Instagram mention or a TikTok mention. And then because Gatsby is getting Instagram data and email address together, when you get DM tickets in Gorgeous, we'll be able to bring in the Shopify data to that ticket, that Klaviyo data to that ticket, and bring the whole experience together. So the social media engagement is not in isolation when you start to compound integrations. So that's one very tactical answer here on how to build community using some tools on this call today.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Anybody else want to chime in there on community?
Maybe I can add.
Yeah, I'm happy to. All right, on you, Roger.
Appreciate it. Just very similar as well in terms of making sure that every audience and segment sees maybe a different experience as well, and the site is perhaps also merchandised differently. I think that's maybe one of the things that was very difficult in the past. Like if you have a high TLV audience, that they would see a re-ranked category or collection page, or for example, New York versus LA, user will just see completely different products appear on the site. I think, again, used to be fairly difficult, but is being made much easier now with Shopify and tools like Nosto. So definitely creating those specific funnels for those communities is quite key. And perhaps also more on a technical side as well.
Brilliant. Neil, how about you?
Yeah, I was just going to say that like, this is actually an area that we've done quite a bit of research into, specifically on like how much a community can affect or what impact it can have on a brand's revenue. And what we reckon is that it can have a revenue uplift of about 6%. And by 6% is that we estimate you need about 20 times, or brands need to aim for about 20 times more members in their community than the number of orders. And if you convert 0.3% of them, that 0.3 isn't plucked. It is actually, based on average conversion rates. Then that generates a 6% revenue uplift. And you're coming back to like sort of one tip that we've seen from all of that research is to designate one owner to manage the community and be super engaged. So they will create content, they'll keep the other people in the community engaged. And then some of the best people within these communities are then partnering with influencers and other community power members to attract new people to the community and lead by example. So have one person that's really hammering that community. And again, I think I mentioned examples earlier. An example of a brand that I know is doing this really well is 301 Nutrition. And they do something really cool that I like, which is just update on a weekly basis their community header with whatever topics they want to focus on. Simple things like that, just keep people engaged.
Absolutely. I think you also mentioned Glamnetic earlier. I think their Facebook community is a really impressive one. Their founder is constantly involved and engaging. So 100% agree with your point. And as a marketer, I know how big an undertaking it is to run a community. You definitely do need a dedicated person, but I think it's great when you can also get other members of the team involved, particularly a founder or somebody who is the voice of the brand. I think that can add so much weight to a community.
I guess it would be remiss of me also, coming from a customer service company, to not say use your community as a customer service channel. You'll get so much good feedback.
But they actually can be answering so many of those queries on your behalf. It's quite very efficient. Absolutely.
Yeah, Fiona, if I could jump in real quick too. I know a lot of people, specifically around email marketing, you don't think about building community with email, right? Because you're not interacting and your customers aren't interacting with one another or the brand via email so much. But there's a huge opportunity there from the post-purchase standpoint as well. So think about post-purchase messaging. It's increasingly being used, but it's still woefully underutilized by brands, in my opinion. And I just don't see them. And there's a lot of opportunity there. And most people think about like product review messages and things like that. But if you have a brand or products where you can be helpful for the customer, where you start using word of mouth or sharing images on Instagram or whatever platform that you want to hammer on, automating messages off to people who recently purchased, and then using segments to say, hey, are they a one-time purchaser, two-time purchaser, loyal customer of ours, what likelihood to repeat? And within those messages, think about just how to improve the customer experience. Don't worry about sales. They will drive sales, but how do we improve this purchase experience? That could be how-to emails, right? So how to waterproof your shoes. It could be how to care for XYZ, how to use this. And here's some recipes we'll give you, whatever is available for your product. If you happen to sell a complimentary like upsell item, so it could be, I don't know, it could be a peel to a baking steel, or it could be a wash bag for lingerie, whatever it is, put them in there, but make them kind of subtle. So what you're going to do there is you're using the email to foster, again, you're building consumer confidence, you're fostering better relationship, and you're hopefully pushing that advocacy to other channels where they're talking about you, and email just becomes a vehicle in which to do that. So there's a lot of opportunity there for brands as well.
I completely agree with that. As a content marketer by trade, I think content drives the community so much of the time, and then it's just about finding different vehicles to get that content out into community, and things like how-to guides are such a nice subtle way to introduce your products a bit better, for sure. Fantastic. Thank you. So our third question today, competition is becoming fiercer, and therefore brands are finding it harder to differentiate. One way to leave a lasting impression on shoppers is to deliver that great customer experience. So what would you all suggest that the highest priority should be when it comes to leveling up customer experience in 2023? Greg, your trend was all about customer experience, so perhaps you can lead us out of the gate on this one.
Sure, and I'll try to make it pretty quick, which I go on long tangents, but I'll try to make it quick for everyone else here. So same things I mentioned. If I had to hammer on one thing here, I would say look at the automations that you're sending and try to how to improve those. So one, they're going to send when you're sleeping. So you can always optimize them. You can create splits. You can add different channels in SMS and email and push all into the same workflows. But if you optimize those to make the customer experience better, to focus on their customer intent. So, we know browse abandonment messages. What is the intent of that person? Well, they might be shopping. Something in their life took them to your website at that particular point in time, and they're clicking on something. So chances are they're going to shop at some point in the near future, whether with you or someone else. So think about how we use those messages to say, hey, check this item out, come back and purchase now. But instead frame that around customer intent and say, this is where your customer testimonial is, your product stars, maybe recommended other products or top rated or customer favorite products. And you're just guiding them along that journey. So again, however your email marketing program is structured, we know 30% of sales are coming on less than 2% of sends here. Optimize them, utilize them, use splits, use customer segments to make those messages more relevant, right? Is it a browse abandonment message or a cart abandonment message going off to someone who's never purchased, who's now coming back to make maybe their second purchase? They're a loyal customer, right? We can change our entire strategy around that. But that's where the one tactical thing I would focus on. And you don't always have to make it about the sale. Of course, we want the sale, but think about how to improve that experience. You'll be amazed at how much better those messages will perform for you. So that's where I would hammer home on.
Amazing. Thank you, Greg. 1 minute to go. Who wants to follow that one up?
Yeah, I can jump in. I'm going to do a quick gorgeous loyalty line plug here for you, Neil, as well. So can't kill two birds with one stone. So
Love it.
I think it's just all about making sure that all of your tech is singing off the same hymn sheet, like I mentioned earlier. But like Greg was saying, automate as much of that as possible, segmenting out, who your loyal customers are. But within Gorgeous specifically, I'm thinking about being able to award loyalty points directly from within the service desk, for instance, is so powerful for service recovery, for leaving that lasting impression on people. Even being able to share the customer's unique referral URL, after they've had a good experience or even after something's been rectified, is another good opportunity to sort of drive that acquisition at a time where you might not think it's maybe sort of appropriate. But it's just making sure that everything's kind of all firing on all cylinders.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chris. And just squeezing a couple more minutes out. Anybody want to add to that? No.
Yeah, go on. Seeing as it's on customer experience, and that's my bag. I think it was Greg who mentioned automate stuff. Absolutely automate as much as possible. And from a sort of customer experience and live chat point of view, looking at how we can automate pre-sale and post-sale questions. Looking at pre-sale, most of us as brand owners know the questions that we're going to get asked. So stick them, make them super obvious, stick them in the live chat. If someone clicks that question, they get an answer straight away. And then you don't need to allocate human resource to answer such a basic question. And the customer gets an instant response and they will hopefully convert. From a post-purchase perspective, the most common question in the world is, where is my order? Especially just now. If we can automate that again directly within live chat, customer gets the best experience, super happy. Even if their package is delayed, they're like, great, I've got a response. And then they'll come back and they'll purchase again, because we love transparency as consumers.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Okay, I am going to have to call time there, unfortunately. I'm afraid that takes us to the end of our session on the top trends of 2023. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined us today. I hope you're going away with lots of ideas and inspiration to kickstart the year with. I know I am. A huge thank you to all of our amazing speakers. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us and sharing your wisdom. I'm sure they would all be really happy to connect on LinkedIn if you'd like to continue the conversation or if you have more questions. So please do feel free to reach out to Lotaline and we'll connect you up, or feel free to connect on LinkedIn as well. Otherwise, hopefully we'll cross paths again soon. And we really do wish you all the best of luck with the challenges and opportunities that 2023 holds. Thank you all and have a fantastic day or evening wherever you are in the world.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Fiona.
Everyone,
Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers, everyone.